Well, there you have it. A champion has been crowned from the national championship. And why did this team here in the Ohio State Buckeyes win the whole thing over Notre Dame Fighting Irish? It is bearing down and gridiron here on this Wednesday evening, and it starts right now.
I feel blessed, that's evident. I'm the best I've ever been.
Okay.
So if they ask you how I feel,
What's up?
I'ma tell you I feel amazing. I feel blessed, that's evident. I'm the best I've ever been. So if they ask you how I feel,
What's up?
I'ma tell you I feel amazing. I feel blessed, that's evident. I'm the best I've ever been.
I am.
So if they ask you how I feel,
What's up?
I'ma tell you I feel amazing. I feel blessed, that's evident. I'm the best I've ever been.
That's right.
So if they ask you how I feel, I'ma
Well, good evening, good people out there. How y'all doing today? Yes, your boys in the building, bearing down the gridirons here as we are here for the national championship recap. We were talking about the national championship and how the team from the North, the Big Ten, has claimed a title for the second consecutive year as a conference, with the Ohio State Buckeyes defeating the Notre Dame Fighting Irish on Monday night. Playmakers in the building going solo today, so I'm not going to waste too much of your time. Thank y'all for tuning in today. If you're watching live on the Playmakers blog Facebook channel, if you're watching live on the Playmakers blog YouTube channel, we greatly appreciate it. Go ahead and follow us on both Facebook and YouTube. If you're also watching on my personal LinkedIn page, thank you for tuning in on there as well. Also, shout out to Rare Wise Radio, where this will be played on Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Also, we are also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Is it? Bearing down the gridiron. With that being said, we're gonna jump right into it, and we gotta do it how we always do it here on Bearing Down the Gridiron with your 2-minute drill. And to begin the 2-minute drill, Kenny Dillingham raises extension approved at Arizona State. Arizona State's football coach Kenny Dillingham is getting a big raise following the Sun Devils' unprecedented, unpredicted, unexpected trip to the college football playoffs by way of winning the Big 12 championship in their first year as a Big 12 conference, as a Big 12 team. The Arizona Board of Regents approved Thursday a contract extension for Dillingham through 2029 and a salary increase to $5.8 million starting this season, with a $1,000 increase each January 1st for the duration of the time. He made $4.1 million last season. Now, the contract includes a 1-year extension and raises for reaching certain benchmarks up to a $450,000 increase for a 11-win season. Very deserved, because he took Arizona State, as we said numerous times on this program, that they will pick last in the Big 12. They were picked to finish last in the Big 12, but they ended up number 1 in the Big 12. They got one of the 4 buys before ultimately going down to Texas in the quarterfinals up in the Peach Bowl down in Atlanta, Georgia. But Kenny Dillingham, you did a phenomenal job this year. This raise / extension that you got, well deserved for what you put forth and outdoing everybody's expectation for the Arizona State football program. So hopefully this is just the beginning, and that you don't get this raise in Arizona State go back to where everybody was thinking they would be at, that you continue to increase the productivity out in Tempe, Arizona with the Sun Devils, sir. But congratulations on the extension. Well deserved. Well deserved. Going to our next topic. CFP hasn't ruled out tweets to the 12-team format for 2025. Now, they did not go into specific details, but they are looking to make some tweets going into the next 12-team playoffs for 2025. One of those, I would love for y'all to get rid of the buys, but there's no way to doing it because you're still going to have 12 teams unless you're going to have 6 games being played in the first round. Then the teams that advance, well, no, you can't even do that because I don't even look right. So yeah, you're still gonna have to do buys. We gotta do something with these buys, man. We gotta do something with these buys because you talking Arizona State, who we just talked about, Georgia, Oregon, and Boise State. They had pretty much almost a whole month off. While teams like Texas, who beat Arizona State, teams like Notre Dame, who beat Georgia, teams like Penn State, who beat Boise State, and teams like Ohio State, who beat Oregon, got to play and get the rust off the week before or 2 weeks before we got to that point. So the teams that received the buys came in rusty. The teams that got the rust off in the first round because they were hosting home playoff games got to knock it off, and they came in prepared, ready to play. While the teams that came out by was not ready to play, except for Arizona State, who showed up in the second half, but it took him a whole half to get back to form. You gotta do something with these buys, man. Gotta do something with these buys. These buys are way too long. Okay, this is way too long. Too long of a waiting period for these teams here. But just the first year, so I'm gonna hold back for now. See if they make any tweaks, and if they don't, we'll see how year 2 goes because you know they're going to 16 and it's coming very soon. But that's just me. Now, Sunbelt finds Marshall for bowl opt-out due to players' exit. Now, those of you who need a refresher, Marshall was set to play Army in the Independence Bowl, but they had decided to opt out of the bowl game because once their coach left for the, I'm trying to remember what job, the Southern Miss job, players entered the portal. And they didn't have enough players to play, so they decided to opt out. Now, here's the crazy thing. The Sun Belt Conference announced Friday it fined Marshall $100,000 for opting out of the Independence Bowl last month, even though the Thundering Herds roster had been depleted to 41 players after coach Charles Huff exit to Southern Miss, and as many as 36 players entered the transport portal. Before I say what I want to say, I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna continue to give you the details on the article. Thank you, Chris Lowe for ESPN. Marshall Athletic Director Christian Spears told reporters Friday that the university accepts the fine and will move forward, but he made it clear that the well-being of the players was paramount in the decision not to play in the bowl game against the American Athletic Conference champion Army on December 28th. Now, Louisiana Tech filled in for Marshall, and they took a good old 27-6 beating in the bowl game. But hey, it is what it is. The Sun Belt in a statement said that while it acknowledged the medical model and best practice guidance adheres to by Marshall, as well as their fundamental concern for the health and safety of the remaining eligible student athletes to compete in a safe and viable manner. The nature and timing of this decision was detriment to the Sun Belt Conference and its membership, to Army, the Independents, and the American Athletics, and of course the broadcast partner ESPN. They also said, hold on, go back. Sorry about that. They also said it added that consider the matters concluded and will have no further comments. So you're gonna sit here and say that. I'm gonna read this again. While It acknowledges the medical model and the best practice guidance adhered to by Marshall, as well as the fundamental concern for the health and safety of the remaining eligible student athletes to compete in a safe and viable manner. The nature and timing of this decision was detrimental to the Sun Belt and its membership. You know what that tells me? The Sun Belt couldn't get that money by Marshall participating in it. Yes, you heard me correctly. The money for being in a bowl game was missed out by the Sun Belt because Marshall had to do the correct thing and not play. 36 players entered the transfer portal after Coach Huff took the job at Southern Miss. So that's what that means to Army. I'm pretty sure Army understands. I'm pretty sure Army is like, we understand. Your head coach left and your players went with him. What else do we expect you to do? Now I can't speak for Army, but that's just me. The Independence Bowl because they had to find another party, but they still got to play the bowl game. The American Athletic Conference, they don't care. Hell, they won the Capital One Cup because they were the best conference in bowl season. Army winning 26, 27 to 6 is part of that. They're good. ESPN still broadcast the game. Not pretty sure. I was because I'm pretty sure ESPN was looking for it like I was. We had the Sun Belt champion going against the American champion. Yeah, so it was a class I wanted to see. But hey, they lost 36 players to the transfer portal. And you want the rest of the 41 players to suit up and go against that triple option office that is Army? You greedy bastards. That's right, I said it. You greedy bastards. Even in the G5, you see all conference leaders are greedy bastards. $100,000 because 36 players entered the transfer portal. So them doing the right thing cost them $100,000. Yeah, y'all tell me. Does that sound fair? If you lose that many players, and you have to make a decision to either play in the bowl game or opt out because this ain't gonna work. Yeah, y'all tell me. But $100,000 fine here. We're talking one with 5 zeros behind it, but the comma after the second zero. Y'all tell me, is that fair? Or is the Sun Belt being greedy bastards like the NCAA has always been? I'm just throwing that out there. Y'all let me know. Cause that says how I feel. Y'all shouldn't. We finding them $100,000. They almost half their roster was gone. What you want them to do? Stuff like stuff like this is reason why. This is the reason why what I said last when I had Cole Johnson on here. It's gonna be I need to create a segment with him or Cole Johnson versus the NCAA. Need to be probably twice a month or once a month that he can just talk about what's going on with the NCAA and why he's against them. Because it's stupid stuff like this right here. $100,000, where almost half of your damn team winning the transfer portal. Don't make no sense. It don't. But let me continue on. You already saw about mistake. But yes, Steve Sarkisian. Speaking of Cole Johnson, Steve Sarkisian agrees to a new contract with Texas. I really would love to hear how Cole Johnson feels about this. More than a week after this season ended in the college football playoffs, Texas agreed to a new contract for Coach Steve Sarkisian. The sides came to an agreement Friday night, and a deal that included an extension. Doesn't say what that extension contains of, but he did get an extension. A source close to ESPN that is a 7-year contract extension for Sark. That adds a year to his deal and makes him one of the highest paid coaches in college football. Now the news of the agreement was first reported by the Action News, which is noted that the deal came after Shark declined interviews with 2 NFL franchises for coaching positions. So Steve Sarkisian is still a Longhorn, and he will be a Longhorn, of course, for however long he wants to be. Congratulations, sir. Now, you still got some work to do because the way that you looked it against Georgia and Atlanta, the way you looked it, the way you looked it against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, was not impressive whatsoever. So you got some work to do. Okay. And I'm pretty sure that when the Southeastern Conference meeting comes about, it's going to be some heads rolling. It's going to be some things because the Southeastern Conference looked terrible this season in both seasons. It really did. So, yes, I'm pretty sure looking to see what improvements the Southeastern Conference is going to make. Now, speaking of a conference in the South, let's go to the Atlantic Coast Conference. Says the ACC will wait changes to its title game. Commissioner says. Adrian Allison for ESPN. Thank you for this article. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said Sunday that the league will have conversations amongst coaches and athletic directors about whether to make changes to its conference championship format. The conversations are a result of the expanded 12-team playoff and ensuring conference champions and the teams that play in conference championship games remained important. The past season, SMU entered the SEC championship game as the regular season champion, but lost to Clemson in the ACC title game and had to sweat it out before selection day before earning a spot in the 12-team field, which they did, but ultimately got trounced by Penn State because they had to go to Happy Valley. Phillips said the ACC could consider giving its regular season champion a bye and have the teams that finish second or third in the league standings play in the ACC championship game, which is dumb as hell. Secondly, he also added a possibility of having the top 4 teams play on the final week of the regular season. First place going against fourth place, second place going against third place, and with the winners of those 2 games meeting the following week in the ACC championship game. Phillips also said that he will have conversations with the league's head coaches on a conference call next week to get their feedback on a plan, specifically pointing to the comments SMU coach Ryan Lashley made leading up to the game, in which he indicated that the Mustangs might be better off not playing to protect a spot in the field. Now that I just read all that, first and foremost, that first option, giving your regular season champion the final week off, that is the dumbest thing I ever heard. What's the point of making the schedule if not all your teams going to play the same amount of games? That's stupid. Everybody in the ACC play the same amount of games. So your regular season champion going to get a game off? And your second and third place team fight for the ACC championship? That is dumb as hell. See, this is the problem. This is another problem with the NCAA. The NCAA doesn't take charge over these conferences. They let each conference act like its own independent, and you get stupid ideas like that. Oh, our regular season champion gets the week off, and the other 2 teams that finish second and third, they'll play in the ACC championship game down in Charlotte. That is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. What the hell is that? You got 12 teams in the playoffs, and now these conferences don't know how to act. Or here's the other possibility. Your top 4 teams duke it out in the final week of the regular season, which means whoever's in first place will take on a fourth place team, and whoever's in second place take on a third place team. And the winners will play, and the winners of both of those games will go to the ACC championship game the following week. What if you had a scenario like you did this year? Clearly, SMU clinched their spot, and you had to see if Miami could beat Syracuse. And Clemson didn't matter because they in their season in their in-state rivalry with South Carolina. But you needed to see Miami and see if Miami can go on the road and beat Syracuse, which they didn't, which is the reason why Clemson got in. Don't start making these dumb changes. Miami didn't handle their business. That's why they didn't make the ACC championship game. That's why they didn't have a shot to make the 12-team playoffs. SMU barely got in because they came back and lost on a last-second field goal. Performances on the field matter. If Clemson would have continued to boat race them, SMU wouldn't have got in. And that would have been plain simple. You know why? Your dumbasses didn't show up in the biggest game of the season thus far. But you made a comeback, and it's the reason why you got in. Your performance matters. When you step on that gridiron field, when you step between those lines, whether it is in Dallas, whether it's in Charlotte, whether it's in Clemson, Florida State, whether it's in Miami, it don't matter. When you step between the lines, you better put your best foot forward because your performance matters. Does not change things up. ACC, deal with it. You're not as big as the Southeastern Conference. You're not as big as the Big Ten Conference. But yet it's still, you got 2 teams in. You got SMU in, and you got Clemson in. Guess what? Both of your teams got beat in the first round. You know why? Because they didn't show up. How about making your conference better? If you want to be respected, make your conference better. You got to respect the Big Ten. They got back-to-back national champions now. You definitely respect the ACC because the ACC was dominating for the time being until these last 2 years. It's been all ACC for the most part. The Big 12, you can flip-flop between the Big 12 and the ACC. Which one you want to put third and the other one fourth? You don't hear them crying about making changes to the Big 12 championship game. Or because Arizona State came from last to first all of a sudden and they beat Iowa State and we couldn't see Coach Brown and Colorado in there. And then, no. The Big 12 got 1 team in. They happy with that. Unfortunately, they got beat by Texas, a former Big 12 team, and they kept it moving. But the ACC want to be... I'm not going to say it. But the ACC, get it together, please. I'm talking about making changes to the conference championship game. So it was important. That's how Clemson got in. Sounds stupid. My bad. Now, we already have the way too early title favorites for 2026 with Texas coming in first at plus 450 with Ohio State coming in second at plus 500. Then you have Georgia, Oregon, and Penn State running out the top 5 with Alabama coming in 6th, Notre Dame at 7th. Okay. So those are your odds going into next season, as Texas and Ohio State are the favorites to compete for the title next year. And then finally, as I keep messing up, Pete Medhurst, longtime voice of the Notre Dame football team, has died at the age of 55. I hate to end on that note, but that was the last news that I was able to snatch for today. And want to send our condolences to the Medhurst family and to the Notre Dame family who lost their longtime host of their football program. So I want to send my thoughts and prayers out to them. And with that being said, we're going to take our first commercial break. And then when we come back, we will recap the national championship game.
Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony, or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Poppy J.
You got the option to cry for the government. You got the option to protest. You got the option to keep buying. But this is also an option.
Wise El Jefe.
We're the first tech geeks. We're the first gamers. We're the first everything. Everything. Like Gen X's, we are the ones.
BS3 Network proudly presents the crew from the New York boroughs who never wants that smoke. Nah, they want that fire. Poppy J and Wise El Jefe, Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
WWE Shop is your online source for all things WWE. Be a part of the excitement and score wrestling gear for big events like WrestleMania or SummerSlam. From current superstars to legends, from Raw to SmackDown to NXT. Don't miss this chance to shop for the most awesome WWE merch. Shop for the best deals as well as WWE gift cards and save big on your favorite items. WWE Shop at Fanatics Experience.
Cool McCain.
You thought you wanted Gunther against Chad Gable, but you didn't. And I'm going to tell you why. Chad Gable would take everything that Gunther's done and bury it.
The Playmaker.
It was on site. AJ Styles walked out there, seen LA Knight. Oh, okay. And then LA Knight hopped out the car. Let's go.
Break down everything in TNA, AEW, and all of the WWE programming. Join these two kings, monarchs of wrestling, live every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central on the Play Caller Sports Talk YouTube channel.
All right, welcome back to Bearing Down the Grade Down, ladies and gentlemen, on this Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. We got through our 2-minute drill. Now it's time to recap the final game of the college football season. It was the national championship game down in the ATL at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It was the AC, the Ohio State Buckeyes, who've been on a rampage, going against the 7th seed, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who just quietly going to handle their business, you know. How did we get here? Well, let's start with the road team, who was the Ohio State Buckeyes, the AC. So they come in as the AC. They had to host the 9th seeded Tennessee Volunteers, and they tore a new one into the Volunteers. Especially all the hoop and hoopla about Ryan Day probably gonna get fired, lost in the Michigan for a fourth consecutive time. Now you have to take the long route to the college football playoffs. So they wrap Tennessee. They head to the Rose Bowl to take on the number one and only unbeaten team, the Oregon Ducks, and they robbed the Oregon Ducks. Getting payback for what took place early in the season, where the Ducks beat them 32-31 out in Oregon. The number one team and only unbeaten team ousted very quickly. And then you had the Texas Longhorn, the fifth seed, down in the Cotton Bowl, where Ohio State had to fight their way through that one. A strip sack fumble by Jack Sawyer of Quentin Ewers in the red zone and took it 90 plus yards back to the house to seal that game and put Ohio State into this national championship game. Now on the other side, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the 7th seed. Well, they begin their playoff at home, hosting the 10th seeded Indiana Hoosiers, the surprising Indiana Hoosiers at that. And right out the gate, they let it be known that this is Indiana and Notre Dame's on top, not the Hoosiers, and they took care of business there. From there, they had to take the trip down to New Orleans, Louisiana, to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. What was scheduled for the first of the year, which was the New Year's, but they had to do it on the second because of obviously of the incident that took place down in New Orleans, which was very tragic. Nevertheless, they played a game. Georgia couldn't find no offense. Notre Dame had no business. They did what they needed to do to get past the Georgia Bulldogs. And then there was a trip down to Miami for the Rose Bowl against the Penn State Nittany Lions. A close game, nip-a-tuck game, and a turnover forced by the Notre Dame Fighting Irish led to the game-winning field goal, putting the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and Marcus Freeman into the national championship game against Ohio State that took place on Monday. And with that being said, it was the Ohio State Buckeyes 34-23 win over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame struck first, then 28 unanswered. No, take that back. 31 unanswered by the Ohio State Buckeyes. It quickly went from 7-0 to 31-7 midway through the third quarter before Notre Dame finally was able to answer again when they made it 15-31 towards the late part of the third quarter. Beginning of the fourth quarter, they was able to score again and make it an 8-point game. And then, as we all know, the play of the day, Will Howard to Jeremiah Smith on a critical third and long situation that put the Buckeyes from punting the football to being kicking a field goal to seal the deal. 33-yard field goal to make it 34-23, as that was your final score there. Give you the team statistic: 445 yards of offense for the Buckeyes to 308 for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Ohio State did turn the ball over. That's how Notre Dame got back in the game, but nevertheless, almost 5 minutes of difference in time possession in favor of the Buckeyes. But man, what can be said? Will Howard, 17 for 21, 231 through the air, 2 touchdowns. Quinyon Jenkins, 11 carries, 100 yards rushing with 2 rushing touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith, 5 catches, 88 yards and a touchdown. None bigger than that big third and long catch where he caught it, and it was pretty much game seal match for the Ohio State Buckeyes. On the Notre Dame side, Ryan Leonard, 22 for 31, 255, 2 touchdowns. Leonard was also the leading rusher with 17 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Greathouse leading receiver for Jaden Greathouse, leading receiver for the Fighting Irish, 6 catches, 128 yards, and both of the touchdowns passed by Ryan Leonard. There's really much you can't say, man. The Ohio State Buckeyes, they captured. It's their 7th national championship in program history. Their first one since 2012, the first year of the 4-team college playoffs when they went through the Oregon Ducks and Alabama in that one. That's when Carnell Jones led the Buckeyes, and they had Zeke Elliott. So they ran through Alabama in the semifinals, and they ended up boat racing Marcus Mariota and the Oregon Ducks in the national championship game. That was the last time they did it. Urban Myers was the head coach. Urban Myers was the head coach. That's how long it's been. This is Ryan Day's first national championship, and it's safe to say that he's not getting fired no time soon. He finished the deal. Now, we heard Paul Feinbaum on Get Up, I believe the day after Tuesday, the day after, where he wasn't impressed that Ohio State won the national championship because of the $20 million deal roster that he had and all that stuff. Well, guess what? He might have had a $20 million roster, but he had to deliver. He delivered. You can say you're not impressed. You can say you're not happy. You can say all these things, but no, whatever the case may be, the Buckeyes are on top of the football world. And it's just where it is. Ryan Day got his elusive championship. The Buckeyes get to celebrate now. And they get to throw away that terrible loss to Michigan at the Horseshoe because they can call themselves national champions. Now, the question would have been if Ryan Day wouldn't have won the national championship, would the talk would have been, because I do believe if it wasn't for that loss to Michigan and the backlash that the Ohio State Buckeyes got from that loss, this run probably never would have happened. So in a way, maybe Ohio State fans probably should thank Michigan for putting down the Buckeyes again. Because if you didn't have that type of energy towards Ryan Day and this team, maybe this team wouldn't have shown up the way that they did in the college football playoffs. Boat racing the Tennessee Volunteers, boat racing the Oregon Ducks, making the critical plays against Texas, and making the critical plays against Notre Dame to capture the 7th championship in program history. Maybe, just maybe, Ohio State fans should thank Michigan for that L that they took. Because they got to be down at their lowest moment of the season. Yeah, the loss to Oregon hurt because they could have won that game. They lost by 1 point. Those losses hurt. Those type of games hurt. But getting pounded, getting punched in the mouth by your rival. And after that, your own fan base is turning against you. People's calling for your head coach's job left and right. This roster, who has $20 million worth of a roster, feeling the pain of their fan base turning on them, saying y'all ain't worth a darn for that much. And you see what they did in the first ever 12-team playoffs. Now, here's the question. Because when Urban Myers won the first 14 playoff, they never won it again since. And that's why we got to this point where Ryan Day won the first ever 12-team playoffs. Will you also pull Urban Myers and never win one ever again? Because that was the only time outside of Michigan this last season that the Big Ten has won the national championship. Because when you went to the 14 playoffs, Ohio State won the first one. And it was either the SEC or Clemson winning the rest of them in the 14 playoffs until Michigan this last season. And now this past season, to begin the 12-team playoffs, Ohio State is back on top. Can Ryan Day keep it going for the Big Ten? Or will the SEC and a team like Clemson somewhere out in the world will start raining down on the 12-team playoffs? Now, we want to see, the reason why they did the 12-team playoffs to see different champions, to give more teams a chance to showcase what they can do in these environments. Ohio State wins the first one. Can they go back-to-back? Can the Big Ten claim hold to the 12-team playoffs the way that the SEC came hold to the 14 playoffs? We shall see. But for right now, Buckeye Nation, you can still celebrate because you're back on top of the college football mountain. And with that being said, the final AP rankings of the season. Of course, Ohio State is number 1, followed by Notre Dame. Oregon comes in at 3, Texas at 4, Penn State running out the top 5. Then you have Georgia, Arizona State, Boise State, Tennessee, and Indiana in the top 10. And then you see 11, through 25, starting with Ole Miss, going all the way down to Colorado at 25th. And with that being said, that's all the time I have for you today on this episode of Bearing Down the Gridiron. As we close up shop for this season 3 of Bearing Down the Gridiron. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for joining me throughout this time. We will try to keep in touch through our college football news and notes through our website, theplaymakersblog.com. Make sure you follow that and look out for the college football news left and right, and we'll try to keep you updated and do that. And then if something big happens in college football, you might get a surprising episode from us. But with that being said, this is the end of season 3 of Bearing Down the Gridiron. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for this journey. Remember, you can follow us on our YouTube channel, the Playmakers Bar Sports Network YouTube channel. You can follow us on the Playmakers Bar Facebook page. And plus, you can always listen to Bear Down the Gridiron on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and wherever else you get your podcasts at. So follow and subscribe to those. And plus, you can always catch this episode this Saturday on a Real Rise Radio, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also 502 American Angel Radio as well on Friday. I am the Playmaker signing off for this season of Bearing Down the Gridiron. Y'all have a great off season.